Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Big Blue Offensive Podcast with Mike Trainer, Jay Jules, and John Depot. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Big Blue Offensive Podcast. Unfortunately, me and John are back from vacation. I could have really took an extra, probably till August. That talking Giants, but Jules was on his own last week. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed that episode of Jules talking nonstop for 20 minutes. I don't know how he could do it, but he's got some questions for me and John based off of that podcast last week. So, Jules, before you get into the topics, I want to hear this question, man, because I heard your podcast.
No. Listen, just to kind of recap, what I was getting into for 20 minutes. I know I rambled out a few points for certain. There was definitely a couple of times where I was even like, what am I talking about? But no, I tied it all together. I made it make sense, and I was actually proud of myself because it felt like I was on there for 4 hours and it was only 18 minutes. So that was a little chip there. But one thing that I just kind of wanted to make clear, and it was sort of based off of what that whole that whole little short tape was about, is what if these referees, because there have been some noted in the NBA for sure, but what if that is the case? What if it ever came out that the NFL definitely told their referees to make questionable calls go a specific way to persuade the outcome for a specific team? And what if that ever came out to public? They look, this has been going on. The NFL does it for years. They tell their coaches, they tell the referees that they want this particular team to win. And if certain calls can go their way to kind of persuade that outcome, so do it, so be it. Because technically there's nothing illegal against that. If that ever came out, and if that was ever proven and that was true, and they went to Congress, let's say, like the whole steroid thing with baseball, how would that affect you guys who are watching the game of football?
How would it affect me or us? John, you want to go first? I got to think about this.
I mean, the first thing that strikes me is it would make me feel more of like a WWF fan, because it's essentially the same thing at that point. Sports entertainment with some type of loose version of a script, or scripted outcome, let's say.
They both wear tights.
Yeah, exactly. They both wear really tight pants, and you can see the outline of their cocks. So I don't know. I feel like the easy answer, like, oh my god, I couldn't do it. Fuck the NFL if they ever did that, this and that. But honestly, it's been years since I felt like the evidence points to the fact that is what's exactly going on, and I fucking lose my voice on Sundays cheering for the Giants. So to say I'm gonna have some dramatic shift in my fandom, I don't know. It'll probably make me lean more into the Hollywood outcomes of certain things, and kind of maybe incentivize me to gamble a little bit more towards what I think the NFL is trying to the story they're trying to write. But as far as the quality of the game goes, it's if you don't know what way they're gonna script the game to end, whether it's the Rams or the Chiefs or whoever whoever's playing in the game, it's all the same. There's no way to really know. If you don't know, it's just the game ends the way the game ends. The Rock won the fucking WWF heavyweight belt, or fucking whoever, Stone Cold won it. You're gonna still root for it the same way. It's gonna be fun, exciting. But yeah, that's what I feel like my immediate takeaway would be. It would definitely cheapen the sport, but like I said, since I'm a teenager, I felt like there's such an incentive for them to do exactly that, Jules, that I feel like it's there. So I've already been living with the idea that this is probably what's going on anyways. And I feel like a lot of sports fans in general feel that way, or have that kind of back of their mind lingering, that's probably what's going on here. I don't know that you polled 1,000 American sports fans that 909 of them are going to be like, no way, God forbid. No. Most of them will probably say, yeah, I can see it happening.
I want to be naive. I want to be naive and say that'll never happen in the NFL. It doesn't happen, but I tell you, man, you watch some of these games and you're holding call, pretty much they could call a holding call any point of the game they want, and because every play you hold, it just matters how bad it is, and you could throw the flag and kill a drive by making it 3rd and 20 if it's 3rd and 10, and so I don't know. I hopefully not believe it. It'll definitely change my opinion about gambling for sure, because I'm all right, what do they want? What does Vegas want? Where's all the money going? If it's all the money's going 80% here, I'm probably going to go the opposite way because maybe they're setting it up because Vegas never loses. So yeah, it would kind of fuck in my head too, man. I hope to God it never comes out because then I'll lose my shit, you know?
Well, listen, and I think you hit it kind of too there with the betting part, right? If it ever did come out, the most thing that I would think would be affected would be the sports betting. And considering with all the talk we did all the season long, with all the apps that came out, there's too much money in that right now for that to be affected. Because look, you can only script the game of football so much, right? At the end of the day, Pat Mahomes has still got to complete that pass to Tyreek Hill down on the thing with 13 seconds left for them to sub for the field goal, right? You know, the referees can only call so many penalties. The quarterback still got to be able to throw that ball. The offense is still got to be able to block these defenders, guys. You know, the defensive guys got to be out of position. It's a million different things. But like you said, what does happen and what you do see a lot is sort of like the holding penalties, right? Like, you know, all of a sudden they just have this crazy holding penalty that just kills a drive. And now they're forced to punt, or there's a questionable pass interference or a non-pass interference call. Like if you go back to the Saints-Rams games when the Rams got to the Super Bowl a few years ago for the first time on the McVay, right? Where clearly the defender lost track of the ball and ran right into the New Orleans wide receiver. I can't think of their names currently.
Blatant.
Right? Blade. I mean, you couldn't miss it. And yet, for some reason, they didn't call anything. Like to me, that was mind-boggling, right? And Saint fans were going crazy about it forever. So those are the type of things that when you hear that they say it's fixed, is what that is. So if that ever came out, in my opinion, I would literally just be doing fucking Super Bowl boxes for every game. That would literally be a part of it at that point when you bet, right? Because outside of that, like, I couldn't get myself to put any kind of more money on some kind of point spread.
I don't want to lose my shorts to that fucking refs fixing the games. But anyway, what topics are we gonna go into this week, Jules?
So listen, man. Now we're getting close to the combine, right? And a few weeks back, we literally did a mock draft that all three of us participated in, and we had our picks. But now comes the time, right? It's officially started today. We're going to get into a little bit of talks about what Dable said, what Shane said, a couple of things that they feel are priorities for them, a couple of players that they feel they are excited about, they want to develop, certain things that Dable had mentioned in regards to the players, to the team, to the coaching staff. And in general, too, I want to hear from you guys. I know I have a couple of names, too. But look, there's going to be a couple of guys that are going to go into this combine that may have been, maybe they were first round picks. Maybe they were in the top 10. Maybe they were in the top 20. Maybe they were second round picks. Maybe they were in the third round. And for whatever reason, by seeing them go through these agility tests, running the 40, bench pressing, doing all these different things, they actually end up moving up the board or moving down the board. And it's going to be interesting to see. So I want to hear a couple of names that maybe are hot names that everybody's been talking about. And maybe some names that no one really knows too much about, that you guys are interested in seeing how their results are and how much their draft prospects change over this next course of a week when we get back here next Tuesday.
For me, it's just I just want to see the quarterbacks. I want to see how well they throw the ball, like Pickett and Willis. I just want to see those guys, even Matt Corral. Like I just want to see them participate, see how they do. Watching these guys in their pajamas, it doesn't do anything for me, man. You know what I mean? It doesn't push me in any direction either way. Like we all seen the videos of Tom Brady running the 40-yard dash or whatever, and he looked like an idiot, and he was the last guy drafted. And then I seen something on Twitter today. It was Josh Allen doing the dash, and he had his arm sticking out to the side when he was running, one of his arms. And they quickly cut to when in The Office when Dwight's brother was running in the fields, and he was running with his arms to the side.
Moses guy, whatever
Mose,
his name is.
yeah,
Mose.
His brother Mose running, and they put it to that dude. I fucking lost my shit. I thought that was the funniest thing. And you see kind of that going on, and you turn it on for a little while, but I tell you, man, I get so bored. I'm I can't watch this anymore.
Yeah, it's fun for 5 minutes, and then you're like, all right, I'm watching barely a glorified practice, if even you want to call it that. But to the point of what you were saying about the testing and all that stuff, what I found that was intriguing, I guess, or at least very interesting. I don't remember exactly the two guys they were talking about, but I was listening to, I think it was the section today where Joe Shane was doing a live Q&A with fans on Twitter and like the call-in show and shit with John Schmeck. And I think that's when he was asked about it, and he was talking about Gregory Rousseau and the other pass rusher that the name is escaping right now that I can't figure out. But apparently they weren't like super like combine monsters, so to speak, but they were good football players, and they've turned out to be pretty good pass rushers for the team or defensive players for the team. So I like that is not just like squarely focused on, okay, it's combine like Jerry Reese, like he was obsessed with fucking measurements and combine fucking stats and all that shit, and that's how he drafted, versus another guy who maybe is just all gut and old school, maybe like a Gettleman type. I like that he's got like a plan in place of, okay, if he doesn't necessarily test the way we think that he might, there's also some other redeeming things that could cause us to want him enough to draft him. So I like just his philosophy on creating a roster and drafting players and stuff like that. Seems pretty interesting.
Hopefully it works out.
We deserve it. I mean, we as fans deserve it. The guys who call themselves Giants fans, who fucking actively root against the team, they deserve for the Giants to be a 4-win team every year. But
fuck that.
Can't both be right.
True.
It kind of reminds me of when you talk about like the Senior Bowl, right? And how like everybody was going crazy about Willis and how he practiced. Guy's throwing bombs in practice, man. He looks fantastic.
Like, stop.
He did a little bootleg to the left, and he hit a wide open wide receiver and looked great. Like, so, like, I get it. It's kind of ridiculous. It's kind of pointless, but you know what? They do have an understanding of certain things that they do test for, right? So when you see a guy, because let's face it, the NFL today is all about speed, right? If there is everything at any point in a time where the speed has become such a factor, it's now, right? That's why like guys like Tyreek Hill, everybody wants to race the guy. He flies down the football field, and we're spreading open these offenses. You need defenders that can cover these guys. So when you could see this dude come and run, and he can sprint out a 40-yard dash, and you see these guys running these 6 times, or they're running like 4.5s and 4.4s and 4.6s, it's crazy, like maybe even 4.35s. Right? I think this Tyreek's the crazy number was. It's impressive, and then obviously what goes with speed, strength, right? So now these guys have to perform. They got to actually put 225 on that bench press. And you know what? Guys are throwing it up 25, 30, 40 reps. I mean, that's insane. Mike, you know that shit. You work out all the time, bro. You can't put up 2.25 20 times. I know I can't. I mean, like, I get that shit 5. I'd be like happy as fuck if I got it 5 times. I don't even think I could get it that many. But
back then I did, like 20 years ago.
Maybe, right.
Not now. Fuck. I'll fucking hurt something.
So it's these additional like things that just kind of like help certain guys. You know what I mean? Like if you're over here talking about like what's the difference between Derek Stingley and Sauce Gardner at cornerback position, because these are 2 names now. Sauce, I love the nicknames, right? Because
I want him for that name too. I want him just.
I was to say you got Sauce Gardner and you versus Derek Stingley. And prior to Combine, Stingley's name was the one. He was number 1 ranked corner. He was going off the board in the top 5. And then all of a sudden, all these different things came out, and he started dropping down. And now Sauce's names come up. Well, they're going to look at these things to separate these 2 guys. Like, what's going to separate them? Well, let's take a look.
Jules, hold on. Jules, imagine we kept Pep and then we had Sauce and Pep. That'd be fucking sick.
That would be dope. Right. Sauce and pepper, baby.
That'd be fucking awesome. All right, go on with your comparisons.
No, but here's the thing, right? So this is where I'm just kind of stressing what I feel is sort of the importance of the combine, right? When you get down to guys like that, you get down to Hutchinson and Theox, right? And you're really trying to distinguish.
What was the second guy's name?
He made it up.
The guy from Oregon, the Ox. I call him the Ox. The Ox. Right?
Thibodeau, is that who you're talking about? Thibodeau, is that the guy?
Yeah, Thibodeau, the Ox. I like that guy.
Yeah, the
Ox. It's gonna be all about nicknames, right?
It's
all about nicknames.
It has an X in it, so Jules like Ox.
Ox. That's it. Everybody's got nicknames. If I have to call the other dude Sauce, and I got my other one later on, like, yo, he's the Ox. That's it. He's a big dude. He's the Ox.
Jules, the X is silent.
Character. The Ox.
The X is silent.
That's silent. Right? That's it. So look,
that's the French pronunciation.
You look at all these guys, right? And they're coming into this draft, and any one of them could be taken. Any one of them could be taken ahead of the other guy, right? Yep. So there has to be certain things that now separate them. So what the combine allows guys to do, it allows like Joe Shane and Coach Dable to talk to these guys, first of all, right? So now they can actually interact with them. They can see the type of personality they have. They can see if that they blend with the type of fit that they want to see with the rest of their team and teammates, right? So that's one thing that obviously stands out in this combine. The second thing is, look, if you're looking at the cornerback position, when you look at Gardner versus Stingley, if Stingley's that much quicker, or Stingley could jump that much higher, or he does the agility test that much faster, that could be the thing that decides taking Stingley over Sauce or Sauce over Stingley. It's that little thing right there. You know, if you see like Hutchinson, or let's go to the offensive lineman. Let's go to fucking Sticky Icky out of North Carolina State, right? Like, yo, that's his new name, Sticky Icky. Icky Equinu, the big tackle out of North Carolina State. And then you have Neil, right? So like, yo, you're going to see both of them go competing. And what's going to be the difference there? Well, what if Sticky Icky could do, 30 presses versus 20? There's a difference there. This guy is going to be stronger now. So it's little things that kind of like stand out that make what this is important about. So you're right, guys, sitting there and watching this shit live is boring as hell. It's probably horrendous to do, right? But at the end of the day, if you can just see the results, that's what I always look at. At the end of the day, next week, I can't wait to see, all right, this guy graded out at this. This dude was a beast. He put up he did 35 reps of 225. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the kind of shit I look for at the end of the day.
I just don't want to watch like these dudes just bench pressing 225. I could do that at my gym. I could walk up and literally stand there and just watch dudes benching at the gym. Like, it's so fucking stupid. But I get it. I get your point, man. If they're like right there close, especially this year's draft, because it seems like there's no like definite number one or definite number two. It seems like everybody's right there. But Juice, you mentioned the speed aspect of the combine. I tell you, that guy, Kyle Hamilton, which I'm on board with, the Giants getting number 5. That dude is like pretty much faster than Tyreek Hill. He has Tyreek Hill speed in the fucking, as a fucking safety and a ball hawk that he can match up with a fucking wide receiver like him, or anybody for that matter, because he got this strength and size too. Man, if he slips to number 5, man, I want that kid so fucking bad on the Giants, man. It would be absolute dangerous, that secondary, to have him and fucking McKinney back there. I'll forget about it. I'll lose my mind if he slips to 5 and the Giants don't take him. I'll fucking lose my shit. I'll be like, fuck Joe Shane.
Before you even get started.
Yep.
One of the other interesting things that Joe Shane said that I liked was that he's like, listen, he's like, with the COVID opt-out year, he's like, you're getting like a lot more players that are going to be available this year than maybe were available last year in the draft. As far as like, seasoned, college players, you're going to have guys who've now played 2 years in a row. Not that they missed a year, and you're like a Micah Parsons where he just didn't play for a year going into the draft last year, which unfortunately fucking worked out swimmingly for fucking Dallas.
Yeah.
Fucking assholes.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
But it made me think like, well, if that's true, and even if there's like 20% more, NFL caliber players, not like first round elite, I just mean like, starting caliber players, there's like 20% more. Having as many draft picks as we have, that's a pretty exciting, like, just coincidence how it worked out. Not coincidence, that's probably not the right word, but just the way the kind of stars aligned in a sense, where we have so many early picks this year. With a class that might be a little bit heavier than people were making it out maybe just a couple months ago, when they're there's not this premium quarterback, there's not these premium players, really, there's a handful. Maybe it turns out that the 95 plus overall players there's only a handful, but there might be like a lot of 90 plus players, 88 plus players, where you're having 5 picks in the first, whatever it is, 90 picks or whatever we have, 87 picks. Is pretty exciting.
No, listen, John, that's a great that's a great point. That's what I'm saying. That's a great point. What up, John? Like we talked about that last year on the pod. When we covered last year, kind of around this time, probably a little closer to the draft time of last year, we talked about. Well, actually, sorry, what am I talking about? Right after the draft, rather. And we talked about Gettleman doing the trade and picking up an additional first round, a 4th round pick from Chicago. And then we had these extra picks in the 7th round, and, we have all these additional picks. We have an extra 3rd round pick. We were saying how if everybody keeps talking, all the so-called experts keep going on and on about how, this this draft, you know, in 2021 is, you know, we don't know. There's the whole COVID issue. We don't know. But next year's draft is loaded with talent. Well, you know what? This is a great time to them be the New York. Only the Jets have more picks than us in this year's draft. And here we are sitting with 2 top 10 picks, you know. So to me, it's part of the reason why I think you're hearing Joe Shane basically saying that, you know, we're all set up in a play where, we're listening to trades. If we got to trade up, we'll trade up. If there's something there to actually trade up for, if we're going to trade back, we're going to trade back. We're open to hearing a lot of different things. And I think that's part of what it is, right? Because there is so much talent. I mean, look, I'm looking up and down at the list, and I know we made our picks a couple weeks back, you know, but I'm looking at it and I'm like, look, let's just say, for example, right, that the top 2 tackles and the top 2 edge guys are gone, right? Now, I know, Mike, you're jumping on Hamilton there, right? No questions asked, right? Yep. So I get where you're standing there, but then you got to consider the 7th pick, right? So now, you know, you take Hamilton, but now what are you going to do with that 7th pick? Are you taking another defensive guy? Are you going to then are you going to reach for one of these other tackles? Is Cross really that good? Trade that he deserves to be in it, or are you going to trade back? So that's where I think that this combine is going to start to really see if Cross as an offensive tackle belongs in the conversation for a top 10 pick. You know, you're going to start to see, you know, is Sauce Gardner and Stingley both 2 top 10 corners? I don't know, right? You know, is Karafalis, right? You know, the Greek god, is he going to work his way into the top 10? Because all of a sudden, you know, he did 225 more than Hutchinson, right? You know what I'm saying? So all these little weird things are going to kind of start to play into place where, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And that's why, you know, guys, I'm down next week, man. We definitely got to do another little mock first round draft, you know, to see what we end up with again, because it's going to be a lot more interesting after this week.
We could definitely do that.
And not to mention, you know, guys, we barely touched on the quarterbacks, man. You know,
it all depends on where the quarterbacks are going to go. If they slip in the top 10, then it could change the whole draft. Like Giants sitting at number 7. If some team wants a quarterback, they could get a pretty penny like we did last year with getting the extra first round that we have now, and, you know, Tony, which they don't want to trade. He's untouchable, apparently.
Unfortunately, though, with the
another one,
quick, I just wanted to make a quick note. If there, let's just say, because you listen, the biggest knock on Kenny Pickett, is the size of his hands. All right, so like that's literally what's keeping this dude from being one of those elite quarterbacks. It's just the size of his hands. Okay, so if he can prove people wrong this week, he automatically moves up into that conversation. And the only thing is, that's the biggest.
He only had 5 years in college to try to prove himself. They're talking about his hands.
Size of his hands, bro. Size of his hands.
Draft, you know, like, talk to the max.
Oh,
like, I want to go.
I hate
you talking about the size of his hands.
Bro.
How much smaller could his hands be than Kyler Murray's? Kyler Murray's like a midget,
like
bro. Like,
he's
got midget with big hands or something. Like, I don't make any sense. He's like Mickey Mouse with the glove and shit. Right?
Fuck him, too.
In all honesty, though, if there's going to be that sort of trade up, and it's going to cost the team, they're going to come after the Giants' 5th pick. And I'll tell you why. Because it's going to be someone like Denver, or it's going to be possibly some other teams that are even a little further back, because they're afraid of Carolina at 6. Because you never know, right? Yes, currently they're all in on Sam Darnold, but come on, seriously. And if these guys show that they are that guy, they are that player at quarterback, it's going to be that 5th pick that's going to be the hot button. And look, we can get a ransom for that. You know, you're talking like maybe a 2nd round pick this year, another 1st round pick next year. You know, it's going to come with a price tag attached to it. That's for damn sure.
The fact that there doesn't seem to be like a can't miss Chase Young, Saquon Barkley type of a guy at the top of the draft, it definitely encourages some type of like trade down scenario, having 2 picks in the top 7 like that. But did you guys see the breaking news literally as you pressed record tonight?
No,
I might have missed it.
Well, hold up, John. Why don't we take a quick commercial break?
All
right.
And then
right.
Get into the breaking news that just happened. So we'll be right back on the BBO NYG podcast. All right. We are back on the BBO NYG podcast. I'm Mike. That's Jules. That's John. Before we went to the break, John was breaking some news. So, John, what's the breaking news that just happened tonight on Tuesday?
So I got the alert that the Giants, and I'm going to see if I could just pull up the tweet.
Barkley just got traded. No.
You're almost.
We will get into that.
Almost 100% opposite of what it is. He said He says the Giants are open to considering all trades, though a deal for running back Saquon Barkley appears unlikely.
And who's quoted that saying this?
Ian Rappaport. So
Okay.
we're gonna,
all right,
put our trust in any reporter. It's probably gonna be him. Cleanup surgery. And then something else came out later. Says he's like, I just don't see it happening. I don't know. Maybe Gelman's ghost is still present. Bro, you're 100% right. Why the fuck would you? There's just it doesn't make any sense. You're going to trade him low, and the 50-50 chance he comes back and has a dynamite fucking season. You want to watch him do it for another fucking team for what? A third or second round pick?
Did you see the list of what's happening, John? I know you've probably seen it on Twitter. But the list of people say, oh, if we cut Barkley, if we cut Bradbury, if we cut, I'm like, do you want to cut the whole team for just money? Like these guys, we need to field a team, and most of the guys got hurt last year.
Bro, if they actually did that and gutted the team of all of its talent, and then they went out and they won 3 or 4 games last year, by this time next year, you guys are all going to be fucking over Brian Dable and fucking Joe Shane, and they're going to have literally just the 2023 season to prove that they have some type of winning thing. But you just made them get rid of all of the plus talent on the team. Draft picks take a couple of years to mature into what they're going to be. So you're automatically almost guaranteeing the failure of the regime.
Right. It's stupid.
How do you not see? I don't understand how you don't see that.
So stupid. So stupid.
Listen, I mean, I don't think you're necessarily getting rid of all of these players.
No. Bradbury and
they want to cut everybody.
You trade just Bradbury and Barkley, you have a significantly worse team. Well, those 2 players on either side of the ball healthy, it is a significant loss, both of them on both sides of the ball. And you want to trade them both?
It depends on how you look at it, right? Because here's the other way to look at that. You can trade Barkley, right? So don't forget, we're not cutting him, we're trading him. So you are getting something back in return, right? So let's just say, for example, you end up getting a pretty good, I'd say, like, I don't know, maybe he rates out on all that Pro Football Focus, whatever kind of rating you want to look at, right? He rates out at, say, like an 80% offensive lineman, and you get a 3rd round pick for Saquon Barkley. Now, just hear me out, right? So you're not literally just getting rid of him. You're not just cutting him. You now got back a 3rd round pick, and you got back a halfway quality offensive lineman, where that's one of your weaknesses, and you now have just improved that area. You're going to have an additional pick. There are a decent amount of running backs, and running backs don't go really in the 1st round anymore. So they go in rounds 2 and 3. You're going to have extra picks there now where you can get a kid. These running backs step in. These rookies step in all the time in the running back position. And maybe they're not as elite. Maybe they're not a game breaker, but they could still do good. They could still run the ball well. Right now, that's why I'm saying, looking at that, you got to keep in mind, you're trading him. You're not cutting him. I would never in a million years cut Barkley. That's just.
And no one's saying to cut Barkley. They're saying to trade Barkley. But
now for Bradbury, though, you are freeing up a lot of cap space.
But it'd be dead cap.
What he's saying is he doesn't really fit into Wink Martindale's system like he did in the past. And Pat Graham's. He was a much better fit for Pat Graham's system. So here's where it's a controversy. Now, look, if you look in one of these other guys, like I mentioned, Sauce Gardner or Stingley, is that guy.
At 7?
You know what I'm saying? Now you have to start considering maybe we grab one of these corners so that, you're not cutting bait and just letting everything go. You're putting in other pieces that are building the foundation of this team.
You know what would happen would make Giants fucking social media go berserk if they went at 5, draft Kenny Hamilton, and then Sauce at 7. It would make them fucking lose their shit. We didn't get any offensive line. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
But like people don't know. Like,
Thursday night Twitter would be fucking on fire.
Dude, we'll get into it, but like there's so much fucking. Maybe next week or the week after we'll get into like down the line in the draft, but there's so many offensive line help, like in the 2nd, 3rd, even the 4th round. It's absurd this year. People are so focused on getting like this prime guy at number 5. Like we already got our left tackle in Thomas. That's the most important position on the offensive line. We got him already. There's other spots. We could fill that up in the later rounds. It's okay, guys. Just you gotta fucking chill. Let them do their job.
Well, I am definitely one of the advocates. I think with the exception of a trade down or some kind of like crazy situation, just like straight up draft at 5, draft at 7. and me personally, I would be happiest having 2 offensive linemen drafted and with 5 and 7, because it takes 5 guys to make that work. You need 5 good offensive linemen. You don't need 5 first-round all-star fucking players. That's not the case. But we have 1 right now, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that Nick Gates returns to play. Maybe this season, probably not. Maybe like mid-season or something like that. He starts the year on IR, is able to come back at some time like around Halloween or whatever the fucking situation is.
Don't forget,
we still have 3.5, let's call it, spots to fill. If you have the opportunity where it just broke out, where you can go and get 2 guys that you know are going to be fucking fortresses alongside Andrew Thomas, then all you need to do is just find 2 other guys that are just okay. And then for the next 5 years minimum, you have a good offensive line, if not better than that. So that's where I'm like, I think that's best case scenario. I don't know who the players would be to make that make sense, and
can't guarantee that.
Probably not going to happen.
That's the
thing.
Can't
guarantee that.
If it was a guarantee, like today, you say, look, no matter what, you're at 5 and 7, you're going to draft these 2 offensive linemen, and they're going to come into the NFL, and maybe they're not studs, but they're fucking banging all-star Pro Bowls at their position, top 5. Without a doubt, you do it. But that's the problem. You don't know, right?
That's not the case this year, bro.
Yeah, and if you can replace certain skill positions that require a little bit more athleticism, maybe, or a little bit more, I hate to say, I don't want to use the word talent because that's a horrible word to use in describing this situation. But if you could just get more of those key guys that are going to cost you more, how about that, right? They're going to end up costing you more because, for the most part, these guys, these big safeties or these linebackers or edge guys, they cost more than an offensive lineman. They just do. Like, they end up making more money than they do. So if you can get one of these guys early and you don't have to pay them for the next 4 years, that's a huge difference there, right? So, this is where all the mechanics of cutting spending cap. I mean, you keep hearing Shane talking about how he wants to cut $40 million off of the cap. Some of these guys are going to go, man. And I hate to say it. I'm one to say it. I don't want to see Bradbury go. But at the same time, I think he's going to be one of those guys that gets cut.
I think you're right. I think
it's just for that reason. We have Adoree Jackson that we're tied to now. Other guys were stepping up a little bit towards the end of the year. Yes, does it mean we're probably going to have to then spend a pick on a corner? Probably. I mean, that's just the reality. We're probably going to have to spend a pick on a corner. And like you said, Mike, look, there's plenty of guys, a couple of guys over in Boston College that are very good offensive linemen that are being picked and, projected at this point of going in the 2nd round, early 3rd round, that are very good offensive linemen. So, there's going to be linemen left over.
I think we're going to sign one.
Ultimately, obviously, you would love to get it to make everybody happy. You get the one big offensive lineman, you get one big defensive player, whether it's a pass rusher or one of these linebackers or secondary players. And then it kind of makes you feel a little bit at ease, right? Because you're like, all right, we addressed a little bit of both. That's the way I'm kind of looking at it going in.
That's probably how it ended up going. You're going to roll the dice on what the situations are going to be. You're probably going to get one offensive lineman and one defensive player or something like that. That's generally how it's just going to go. It's extremely unlikely that they draft a quarterback. They're definitely not drafting a running back. Probably almost 0% chance of them drafting a wide receiver. So on offense, really all you're drafting is an offensive line. You're not going to draft a tight end that high. I don't think there's any Kyle Pitts in this draft that I've heard of, at least. I mean, maybe I missed something.
No way.
So you're going to draft an offensive lineman if you're going offense. That's half the fucking draft is offensive players. So chances are that that's the case. But you said the one key word there was in the 2nd round and the 3rd round, and it may all work out. But the key word to me was leftovers. Me personally, I just feel like, and as a Giants fan, I don't know how you can. Maybe you don't agree 100%, but there's no way you can say you disagree. But offensive line is incredibly important, and that's the fucking meat on your dinner plate. And if I can have a piece of fucking tomahawk steak and a piece of filet mignon, that's what I want. You know what I mean? The fucking delicious mac and cheese side is nice, but I could also go for, fucking nice grilled asparagus with fucking garlic or spinach. Or there's a few other things that I could do there. But if I can get the meat to be not a fucking flank steak, but a filet mignon, that's what I want.
Smash
my
baked
personal
potatoes. Smash baked potatoes for a side. That'd be fucking delicious.
Don't forget, guys, too. Like, look, if we're cutting space and certain guys aren't being around that were around last year, there is a thing called free agency. And I'm pretty sure we're going to go out and sign an offensive lineman or two as well. Okay. We might get the blockbuster guy, but we're going to get some guys that can fucking play football that we're going to sign in free agency. So you got to keep that in mind too, man. So if you can grab these studs that are young coming out of college because you have these high picks and, you know, maybe, and I'm not saying don't grab an offensive lineman. I'm saying take one at least. You know what? Now you go out and sign one or two more. I mean, listen, John, what? You've given up that much on Pert? He's done in your eyes? He's never going to be able to play right tackle again for us? It's it. Wrap it up. He's done.
Draft a center and a guard, and if you believe in that,
sure.
I'm playing there's 5/5 of an offensive line. I know, I don't say I know. I'm willing to bet, like if I'm the GM, that Andrew Thomas I can trust will not impede me from achieving my goal of competing for a Super Bowl as your left tackle, because that's what you need for each one of these players. So I don't think that. I think we're looking at 4/5 that we need, and if you can get two, I don't know. I think it's a huge importance.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
We're gonna be excited anyway, guys. Like,
and
the
honestly,
draft
guys,
is like.
I was gonna say, I'm sorry. I really think that we're gonna trade back. I got such a weird feeling. About that.
I can see it happening.
I
don't think it'll be the 5th pick. I think it'll be the 7th.
Right. I mean, like I said, the 5th one would literally have to be one of these quarterbacks next couple of off weeks, and some team just salivating over it. That's it. That's the only way it happens.
I don't even know. Like, I feel like at this point, like if you don't know, if you're a team that's in the market for drafting a quarterback, and you really don't know that there's a guy you love already on March fucking 1st, I don't know, man. I don't know if I believe that. I know that for the media, for fans, you know, I think that's where all of a sudden you're going to get more of these highlight videos of fucking Malik Willis or whoever it was, Kenny Pickett, throwing that fucking ball across his body. And I mean, it was literally the most basic play. Daniel Jones did that in a game when he was down 18 points and fucking won the game with that exact play. But whatever, that's not an issue. It was the first game of his career. Anyways, to Darius Lynn, you know, when he's getting hit, when he's rolling out and hit him fucking 48 yards on the field in stride. I think that that all the hype of players I think that's especially this deep into the offseason. I think there's a lot of just the ESPN personalities, the fucking talking heads and fans that all of a sudden getting more enamored with, you know, what a quarterback's going to be. I feel like it's a team, if they know that they're in the market for a quarterback, they've been scouting them since fucking the college season started and already have a very, very firm opinion on particular players, and really not what the combine is going to tell them, but more what the interviews with these players first, because that'll be the first time that they really get to sit down one-on-one. I think it's a 20-minute cap, but I think that's what's going to make them go up and down the draft more than it is anything that's going to do on the actual field during the combine for these players, especially for a team that knows that they're drafting a quarterback.
I'm going to tell you this once. I really do hope there is some kind of hype a little bit, because listen, let Denver, if they want, grab their quarterback, but that means that our fucking hated rivals in the Commanders will be sitting there licking their chops, because if it does fall to that point where Denver's picking at 9 and there hasn't been a quarterback taken off the board yet, dude, I mean, think about it, dude. I mean, Washington may then try to trade up with the Jets at 10, you know, like, and all of a sudden that's where the trade war starts. So you almost want to see this something happen in this combine. Maybe it's Malik Willis. He runs like a crazy ass 40 time and breaks the record and has the fastest one or something like that, you know, for a quarterback. I don't know. You know, you kind of want that though as a Giants fan.
I don't think that any players go to the combine, and unless they're like a lesser known, quantity or commodity or whatever you want to whatever term you want to use. I think the big names in the draft are probably the top 20, 30 players. I don't think they come to the combine and do anything that shocks any of these talent evaluators, because they've been watching them on film for months. Like, they know what their fucking top speed is and play speed and pads. Like, are they going to get really, if I know that you run in the top 95th percentile for, up with play speed on straight line speed, am I really going to get blown away that you ran a 4.35 a 40-yard dash? Like, I mean, it sounds cool and stuff, but I don't know that any executive is going to have that kind of like, massive shift and fall in love with somebody unless it happens in the interviews. That I would definitely say is
Well,
a real possibility.
let me ask you this then, right? Let's just say like Malik Willis goes by and he's talking with Denver, he's talking with Washington, and even Carolina, and they're all like, man, he's a pretty good kid. I like him. I like where he's going with this. I like his attitude. I like his mentality. Whatever. And then all of a sudden, Malik Willis blows by. And I think Kyler Murray, if I'm not mistaken, guys, correct me if I'm wrong here. I think he ran the fastest 40 as a quarterback. I could be dead wrong with that. I don't even know. I'm just saying that at least the last few years. But all of a sudden he goes and he shatters the fucking 40-time record.
Probably Lamar, I would say, if anything.
I don't remember. I don't honestly, don't hold me to that. I don't remember. I just I thought I read somewhere that Kyler's was pretty impressive at the least, right? And all of a sudden he became the #1 pick. So what I'm just trying to say is that, like, you see Malik Willis, if he does, he knocks his socks off with these interviews with the coaches, and then all of a sudden he does his blazing fast 40-yard dash. I guarantee you there's going to be some moves around, especially if Kenny Littlehands Pickett all of a sudden starts pressing and he could be there. These quarterbacks are going to move up. I mean, look, no one thought Mitchell Trubisky was going to be traded up for by the Bears, and yet he was. No one did. If you go back to that draft, nobody was talking about Mitchell Trubisky. Who? When he got drafted, people were like, oh, even Carson Wentz for that matter. He just caught like a little bit of momentum towards the end, and then the Eagles made that move for him. So, like, these things do happen. It's just something to kind of keep in the back of your mind. And like I'm saying, for Giants fans, I'm excited. I like it. I'm hoping that these quarterbacks go fucking bananas in the combine and do something, and whatever day it is, that all of a sudden they like overly impress these coaches.
Dude, Trubisky coming out that draft, I remember he was hyped up, man. He was like, the person you really didn't hear about was Mahomes. Like Trubisky, I'm like, Trubisky, oh shit, Trubisky's fucking good, man. I remember thinking. But I mean, he's probably gonna get a starting gig like this free agency, and people are still like kind of like sold on him. But listen, getting back to the combine real quick, Kyle Hamilton could go fucking slap Joe Shane in the face during the interview. I still want him drafted at number 5. I don't give a fuck. All right, can we move on from the combine? Do we have anything else to talk about, or you want to guys?
Just really quick, if you want, just like I know, caught a lot of buzz. There's a lot of talk around it. I think it's the right move. I think you guys feel the same. I commented on it, but Giants don't look like they're going to pick up the 5th-year option on Daniel Jones. So that's just something that's been kind of tossed around a lot. Look, I think that's a great idea. You know what? Why are we going to go out and waste $21 million or $22 million against the cap or whatever it would cost us to pick up that 5th-year option just to pick up a 5th-year option on this quarterback, right?
Makes no sense.
If Jones comes out, he has that outstanding of a year, you could easily slap the franchise tag on him next season. It only costs you $2 million more, and you already saved a couple of million last year. I mean, to me, it's an absolute no-brainer. It also makes Jones have to be like, that's it, dude. We wanted you to prove it last year. Now here's your second chance, but you're not going to get paid to prove it. You know what I mean? You got to go out and prove it. And if he does, and we can't work out some sort of agreement next year in 2023, you slap a franchise tag on him for a season and figure it out. I mean, shit. Dallas did that with Dak twice. Then they put 2 franchise tags on him before they actually ended up making him a way overpaid quarterback. But you know what I'm saying? So, like, I think people just need to chill with that. It's not a big deal. It's what needs to be done, at least financially, for the Giants this current year. We need Daniel Jones to be a less expensive quarterback that's on a proven deal in his 5th year. I'm not worried about it. I don't know if you guys are. I'm not worried about Daniel Jones all of a sudden blowing up and throwing for like 4,500 yards, 35 touchdowns, and another 5 rushing. And all of a sudden, he's the hottest commodity for free agents as NFL quarterbacks. And some team's going to throw a ton of money at him. He's going to go there. I don't know about you. I'm not worried about that kind of shit happening.
I am.
Really?
Okay. Get the quarterback, bro. If they get the offensive line right and this offensive scheme translates to the players, they will be a good offense. Maybe not fucking the Chiefs, but they will be a good offense.
Yeah,
it'll be different than what's there. When the Giants put the pedal down with Daniel Jones his rookie year, the kid fucking performed and had prolific games. Next year, they come in with a different offensive philosophy, both from the head coach and from the offensive coordinator, and they're throttled back. Whatever the reasons were, whoever's to blame, it doesn't matter anymore. But that talent is still in there. He has games where he does impressive stuff. The talent's there. They just need to harness it. It's the fucking arc reactor from Iron Man. There's this infinite power. You just got to figure out a way to mechanicalize it and fucking turn it into something that's usable and harness it. and fucking save your fucking life. And that's
John,
exactly
if you were the GM of the Giants, would you go and pick up his 5-year deal?
No, I mean, because there's other avenues that don't necessarily need to lock you in. Like me personally, like if it was me, I fucking love Daniel Jones. I would do it just because I love him. But that's more ego speaking than it isn't. It isn't in fandom speaking than anything else. But as if you're actually in the job, there's, like you said, there's franchise tags, there's extensions, there's many ways to keep him a Giant for the next 5-6 years that doesn't require this to happen. The franchise tag is a huge one. There's other things that they could do that you know, in season. I just only fandom would say that you would need to put the franchise the 5th-year option on him. Again, I think the kid's going to be as a good quarterback, and I think that they could have the ingredients to make a fucking nice fucking meal here. And thinking that he's just going to be a 12 touchdown quarterback going into the 2022 season, I don't think that's. I think you're really underestimating what this kid's talent is.
They can't pick up that 5th-year option. They look like fools if they did that. But yeah, you guys are right. Like Jules, you said, they could put the franchise tag on him. That'd be one way to go. We just hopefully, like, we want him to play well and get paid. But I'm hearing there's a rumor going around. There's a certain quarterback that might be interested in playing with the Giants, and this is maybe why the Giants didn't pick up the 5th-year option. His son is going to go to high school in New York. Guess who quarterback I am talking about?
You had me up until son, because I was like, yo, I heard
that means he's got to be 40.
I heard some stupid rumor that like Tom Brady might come.
Exactly.
Like
I'm hearing the rumors. Tom Brady, he likes the Giant offense. He loves what they did with the coaching staff, and his son is going into high school down in New York City, and he wants to be close to his son. I'm telling you, man, that's some truth to the rumor, bro. You watch.
I was wondering where that rumor started from. I had no fucking clue that it had to do.
He's like, I can't beat him. I might as well join him.
That's fucking right, baby.
That's why he left Tampa, right? Because he wanted to move to New York and shit. And like now he's gonna have one last hurrah with the Giants.
Florida's filled with a bunch of New Yorkers.
Yo, let me ask you this: is he gonna play for free?
Play for free? I just like the idea that you have to come into the facility and look at the 2 Lombardis he lost in
he has to kiss him. He has to kiss him every time he walks by.
You got to shake Eli's hand because he's the ambassador of the fucking Giants for the rest of the world right now.
Yeah,
that'd be sick. Imagine that happening.
And I could never see him on the Jets, bro. Like, what the fuck would he do on the Jets? Like,
no, God.
Like that would just be like.
I think he's done. I don't know. Bro, the guy's. I mean, what if he takes what? He takes off the year, or comes back like right before fucking training camp starts or whatever.
I can see that.
He's 46 years old, 45 years old.
I could see.
Yeah, like I mean, yeah, of course he's not going to sign and go through OTAs and stuff like that.
Right.
I would imagine not, because I mean, free agency is what, 3 weeks away, something like that, which is bananas.
That's
we're already this deep into the off season. I mean, we're 2 full months basically from the last regular season game.
That's wild.
So we're like a third of the way through the off season already.
Which is incredible, right? I mean, how fast it goes. And like you said, a couple of weeks when we talk about free agency, and then a couple of weeks from there, we're talking about the draft. I mean, and then all of a sudden it's OTAs, So like it goes that quick.
Yeah.
I mean, it might not seem like it, but it does.
Anyway, guys, we got any more topics or?
No, man, that kind of wraps us up. It's gonna be interesting. Right. It's gonna be interesting to see. You got one more point? Go ahead, man.
Well, it's completely off Giants topic, but
okay.
As you guys know, I do a lot of driving and I always listen to podcasts and stuff. And I was scrolling through the Joe Rogan Experience. Because I've pretty much listened to last however many it was, a dozen or so, just because I'm tired of listening to fucking all the other fucking losers that do Giants fucking podcasts. So I was listening today. Matthew McConaughey was on the Joe Rogan podcast. I think it was last October 2020 or September 2020, something like that. It was the first year of the pandemic. If you want to tap into the mind of someone who's experiencing the pinnacle of what it is to be a human being on this earth, just being, Oscar winner, just basically a modern day deity. and like how the mind works to be able to take yourself from being nobody to being like, just excellence, basically. Not that, your dream of being an actor, just like the approach to life. The first like hour of that fucking podcast was like one of the most enlightening experiences I've had listening to anything in the last like year and a half. So anybody who's made it this far into our podcast, that means you like us, you trust some of what we say, you want like a little spiritual pick me up, a motivational, like putting a fucking line in your chest, listen to fucking Matthew McConaughey and Joe Rogan from like a year and a half ago. You'll thank me later.
I'm gonna look it up now.
Yeah, for real. But you know what's crazy though? Of course, just with it just in, and it's just gonna gonna show you what the remaining few months are gonna be like during this off season leading into the draft. All of a sudden, I get an alert from CBS Sports that's from Jordan Dajani, all right, of CBS Sports, says Giants GM Joe Shane doesn't rule out trading former top pick Saquon Barkley. I'm open to everything. So who the fuck knows what's gonna happen?
Yeah, that's how we responded to a question.
Ian Rappaport says one thing, you got the Johnny saying another thing. Nobody fucking knows. I kind of like that actually, because it's kind of leave us being like sort of like a mystery. Are we going to trade back? Are we going to draft on the 57? Are we going to make a trade for Barkley? We're going to do all this kind of nonsense. Who knows? I kind of like it. It's mysterious. It's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's keep in mind that this is the NFL selling itself and keeping itself relevant even in its off season.
Exactly.
But he's writing an article based off of the transcript of the fucking the interview. He was asked a question about trading players, Saquon being one of them, and he said, "Yeah, I'm open to all things. I'm going to listen to all things," which is the literal textbook. If you took a graduate course on fucking being an NFL GM and you're asked that question, that's the answer that you fucking give. True or false?
Right.
True.
Are you gonna say no? I'm not trading anybody.
No, that's
if Russell Wilson was a quarterback, they would say
if this quarterback's available, do not call me up.
Yeah, imagine
Russell Wilson. I think the CBS thing was just a matter of someone needing an article to write and fucking said, "Oh, the Giants said this is what it is," and trying to get them off the ground.
He doesn't like Ian Rappaport. Maybe he's like, "Yo, fuck Ian Rappaport." Like, yo, who the fuck is Ian Rappaport? Yo, this is what I'm dropping.
Yeah, I think exactly. I think Ian Rappaport's more talking about from inside the building, maybe a little bit more of like having sources and saying the feeling is we're not really interested in someone knocks our socks off. You give us a first round pick and a third round pick, you can have Saquon Barkley. Great. Like that's almost impossible. That's a very unlikely situation.
That ain't happening. You know that. So
right. So you're not just going to give away your fucking Lamborghini for the price of a Toyota Corolla just because you want to fucking get rid of Lamborghini. No, you're going to wait for the right bid, or you're going to fucking ride that shit out.
He's making $7 million. He's making $7 million.
Exactly.
That's it.
You're not saving a lot. You're gonna, if you want to get a running back, like you're still going to be paying him a couple of $1 million.
Right.
You're talking about 0.1, 0.2% of your salary cap at the most,
right?
And you get to have Saquon Barkley on your team, except with the exception of injury and poor offensive line play. You can't tell me that he's a fucking net negative. The guy's fucking phenomenal.
Right.
Stop. I mean, listen, period. Stop. Like, dude.
The only thing I can see is like you guys said, we're probably not going to get any better than a third round, maybe a second round pick from this year. But there is a possibility that they could throw in incentives. If he rushes for 1,000 yards. You get a third round pick next year. If he rushes for 1,200 yards, scores, a whole bunch of conditionals is blended in there, where then that becomes interesting, right? But honestly, it's like you mentioned, John. It's got to be a trade that just knocks your socks off, where it's like you're a fool to walk away from that fucking deal. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, because if not, then you guys are both saying it. $7 million to have him on the team, and be your running back. Like, come on, you could still. And
then you can franchise him too.
Yeah, right. Of course.
Like, how much is the franchise running back right now?
I guarantee you, Jones and both Barkley have both monster years this year or something, right? They have really good years. One of them's getting the tag. Guarantee you that.
Oh, sure. I mean, if they're monsters, why wouldn't you? You got to extend one and franchise the other. Because if you have monster seasons from your star running back and your fucking quarterback, that means your offense did pretty fucking damn good.
Exactly.
And you probably made the playoffs and completely changed the fortunes of the franchise. And then you're going to go let them go because of fucking money when you know all this TV money is going to start hitting in 2023 and the salary cap is going to shoot up by $50 million.
Word up.
You're going to let these guys watch them on ESPN fucking play for another team? Nah, bro.
And listen, not to mention, one thing we forgot to point out that was like, wasn't really talked about too much, but there's a couple of games throughout Europe this season. You know what I mean? Green Bay's playing in Germany, I think. And then, you have the 2 London games, there's a game in Mexico. The NFL is expanding. Like, you're hearing games like going on in other European countries. It's kind of impressive, dude. Like, so like talking about revenue and things that are going to go up. I mean, they're going in the right direction in that sense, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool, I guess, just to see like the culture around around it. But, does that ultimately lead to them adding a NFL division or NFL team in Europe? Like, I really don't want them, because we're an East Coast team, which means if they add them to the division, we're going to be flying across country fucking every year. And I don't think that historically has boded well for most teams, having to go across the pond like that to play or any type of international game. Usually it's a damper on the team, because it automatically goes with your bye week. It's a whole other thing that you're losing out on that time. I definitely do not, if they're going to make them an AFC team or their own division and we just have to go there once every 4 years, okay, fine. But
I think it's just
I don't really care. That's just them trying to get more money. That's all it is.
That's it. Yeah, but you know what? They're also spreading the game around the world. Like look at our friends over in the UK.
The internet, man.
Well, I'm just saying, but look at our friends over in the UK. Some of these guys have become like major diehard fans for the Giants just because of them bringing that game over to London. So who knows if that wouldn't expand into Germany and other countries, Listen, I think they should have been playing games in Mexico for years. I mean, that's like a hop, skip, and a jump. I mean, if baseball could play over in Toronto and they used to play in Montreal, why can't you play a game or two in Mexico City or play a game or two, somewhere in Mexico? So I think they're on the right path. I think it just kind of coordinates with what you were saying in regards to, having more TV rights and more things to publicize and, just generate more money. But anyhow, with all that said, that wraps up this week's episode. Listen, stay tuned next week. We're going to have a recap of the combines. Let's see if any players really separated themselves from this week to the next, just because of some additional 40 times agility tests and, daily bench pressing, 225, 100 times. But, you'll be surprised. I guarantee you that there's definitely going to be some names that do emerge that maybe have jumped one another, or certain guys have now maybe made themselves look more like a clearer defined pick for number 1, number 2, number 3, and so forth. But anyhow, you'll definitely hear from us. Who knows, if something breaks major throughout the week, you might hear another one of the short takes. But until then, you can hit us up on Twitter at the BBONYG. All right, you can definitely go visit the website. You know what it is. It's just basically the whole podcast spelled out and the Mix It Up, which will also be out for a new episode this coming week as well. We let you know the best thing you could do if you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on Apple or one of these other ones. Just hit the like button and subscribe, man. That helps us a long way, helps us get out the content and everything else. We do appreciate it very much so. But until then, we will see you guys next week. All right, peace out.